Bienvenidos todos, aquí tenemos a Emily, que es la persona a la que vamos a entrevistar. Tiene una historia súper interesante en la cual ha transicionado del mundo del arte a ser programadora aquí en Estados Unidos y nos va a compartir toda su experiencia. So, Emily, it's a pleasure that you share time with us.
It's my pleasure, for sure.
¿Cuál fue el momento que te motivó a cambiar del mundo del arte a ser programadora en Estados Unidos?
Moment is a lie. It was a process. Basically, I did my master's in theater criticism and then slowly transitioned to doing more art production, and was doing my MFA in 2020. I was meant to graduate. So I had a theater show coming up in May of 2020. But of course, you know, COVID hit in maybe March in the US. So about March, we canceled the show. But I still needed and wanted to come up with a project that would help culminate my studies and, you know, show what I had learned. So my project was focused on liveness, like the idea of something being live and in the moment. So what I thought was, how do you have agency in a screen? Like something flat. How do you give the audience a feeling of having power? And I played a couple of video games as a kid, like Zelda, Mario. And I remember, you know, you have the avatar and you can really choose, you can move around. So I thought I can make a video game, why not, right? So I looked up some free options in Unity, and Unreal came up, and I started learning Unity and learning how to code in C# to, you know, put the scripts together to make the game happen. And I really enjoyed it. So that's like moment one, a 3-month span. That's my moment one. And then after that, I taught for a little while. I taught English to 7th graders, and then I taught coding, creative coding, to middle schoolers as well. But I was feeling like I wasn't getting what I wanted out of the tech. I wasn't, you know, engaging on a high level, or I was engaging on a high level, but not on the details that I wanted to really be playing with. So I quit my job and decided, you know, that was my moment too, the quitting the job, that I really wanted to study tech and move into that field.
Okay. ¿Cómo aprendiste a programar y cuáles son los recursos que recomendarías para aquellas personas que están empezando desde cero?
Sure. So in learning to code, I took several steps, right? It's a whole process. But the first thing I did was I needed to learn C# to program in Unity. And this was COVID, and there were a ton of options and resources available online. Companies were just opening up their plans, making Pro free and offering these opportunities. So one of them was Codecademy, this online course catalog basically. And I took the C# course that they had opened up because they were offering Pro licenses for free, basically to anybody. I followed that course, and that was enough to get me started. I was able after that to follow the Unity tutorials. They were doing a series where they would release a new video every day as well, because these tech companies were super interested in having people use their time to learn something, you know, tech-wise, to learn something that you can while you're remote, to give some people something to keep them busy and keep them interested and keep going. So I was lucky enough to find that option with Codecademy to start and like kick it off.
Was that like a free?
Yeah, it was free. The Unity series was free, the Codecademy was free. I didn't, until I quit my job, have to pay to learn to code at all.
¿Y cómo encontraste el primer trabajo de programación? ¿Fue de práctica o algo que una posición de junior?
Yeah, my first position as a programmer was an internship. You know, I was really adverse to finding a job through somebody. I didn't want, you know, this idea of like nepotism. I didn't like the idea that you had to know somebody. Sounded like a backroom deal kind of situation to have an in to get a job. But it seems like that's so often the way it works. And I guess, so I ended up knowing somebody who knew somebody who offered me an interview. But the thing that I want to stress about that is I don't know that many people. And it happened for me. So I think if you're patient and you keep honing your skills and you keep putting it out there that you're looking for this and you're working on this and these are your projects, somebody will come forward at some time.
Mhm.
So you don't have to be like the networking superstar for this to happen. It's organic in a way that's not greasy sometimes, I think, too.
Yes. In my personal experience, I find my first job during 6 months. I apply every day 10 offer jobs per day.
Like you tried 10 times per day?
Yes.
Yeah.
10 per day during 6 months for find my first job.
Yeah.
To programmer.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I was applying, 20 apps a week for like 90 days, I think it took me, so 3 months basically. Yeah, it's a struggle, but if you keep the faith, and I think it happens for people. So.
¿Y cómo ha evolucionado tu perspectiva de la educación formal y de la importancia de tener un título universitario en la experiencia que ya has tenido con respecto a un bootcamp o a otras alternativas como has mencionado?
It's interesting to think about formal education and my career at this point, because I did my bachelor's, I did my master's, I did another master's, and then I'm working in a field that I didn't study. I took a boot camp, which was a 14-week course, which was rigorous. And I don't mean to say that wasn't essential for me. I needed the structure, and I needed someone to be able to ask questions to. So in that sense, it was a formal education. But in terms of the 4-year, 2-year, 8-year experience of formal education, schooling brought me to where I wanted to be a programmer, but it definitely didn't make me a programmer. Curiosity, I think, is really what you need more than a degree.
I think that's right, because in my first week like programmer, I feel it, that all that I have studied before, it's so different in comparison to the things that you really do like normally job.
Really? Something like the tech interview versus the job, or how were they? I'm curious to know what your experience was like about, like, you studied something very technical and then the job is a different stack, or?
No, it's like when I study, it's usually to start from zero. And when you start in a company, you have a code that have developing during 10 years.
Yeah.
And like in shock, it's so big.
Yeah, I had the same feeling. Exactly. Working through the boot camp, I started my own projects. They were all mine. Nobody else touched them. And then I started at a company, and half the code's in Angular and half of it's in React. And it's 3 apps in one that creates the website, and huge. So navigating my way around took me months and months. So yeah, very different.
¿Y cuál fue el mayor error que has cometido tanto en el aprendizaje de la programación como en la búsqueda del trabajo? ¿Y qué es lo que aprendiste para que otras personas puedan evitarlo?
So in terms of a biggest mistake in finding a job, it's hard to say. I don't have all the info of like a hiring manager. I don't know what I've done that made me miss opportunities. So I don't know how much I can speak to what the mistakes are beyond like feeling hopeless. I think the biggest my mentality sometimes is my biggest mistake. Feeling like it's overwhelming, or feeling like it's never going to happen, or it's pointless. These are the things that get in my way more than anything technical, I think. It's really about, it's a marathon to get to where you want to be in life. It's and to forget that, I think, is the biggest mistake.
Yes, I thought this too.
So I guess in terms of advice, I feel like I'm not qualified to give advice, but just keep the faith, like keep your head up and keep going. There is one thing I was thinking on the ride up here, about what to offer to folks who might be trying to enter the profession. And the only thing I could think to say was to embrace amateurism, which has like a negative connotation. You don't want to be an amateur, you don't want to be a novice, but so much that I've learned about programming is exactly that. It's about embracing the fact that you don't know the answer. That's not to say like don't become an expert. I would love to be an expert at everything. I would love to be an expert at something, and I think that's more attainable. But if once I feel an expert on anything, I stop being a novice or an amateur on everything, on something else. If I stop learning, stop having a new project and a new question, that's when I think that the doors will close. So I guess what I just wanted to leave with for anybody who's like looking to start or to learn or to continue, who needs just somebody's opinion, is just to keep an open mind and to remember that it's about learning. It's not about showing that you're the best.
Yes, that's right. I find with this all my days, because I'm a little stressed when I want to do something that you don't know how to do, and you don't find the solution. It's wow.
It's difficult to deal with that situation.
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And I think the developers don't say that usually, but it's so recommend if you can pay a psychologist for this situation. And for example, when spring is ending, usually the enterprise push the developer so much to complete the job. This situation in other field, you don't have to leave, but in like a programmer, yes.
At the end of the sprint, basically, you're feeling all this pressure to finish.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's the time at which you have to remember that although you are learning, you have the power to find the answer. I always just try to tell myself, like, yes, I don't know now, but that's the state of things. I've told my boyfriend before, he says, you always seem stressed. You always seem to have a problem at work, to have a problem with the code. So I tell him, yes, there's a problem with the code. If the code worked, then I would be doing the next problem. There's always a problem, and that's the state of things, and it's okay. Because just the curiosity to continue solving the problems has to keep you going. And hopefully that works within the sprint calendar well enough, or the project managers understand, because there's never going to be it's never going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
In my experience, there's always going to be something. So to work until there's no problems, I think, is the wrong mentality. It's almost like you have to embrace the fact that there's going to be a bug, and to say, hey, great, I fixed this bug, now there's a new one, and I'm excited about that too.
Yes. And what do you recommend the people for finding a job here in United States? For example, in my situation that I told you, next year I want to come here. What do you recommend me to find a job?
I wish I knew. If you find out, tell me. From my humble position, just having been in the job search and having been looking, to have a project, to always have a project going is really important, because if you have an interview, they'll want to know what you're working on, and you need to have relevant answers. Like, you need to have relevant experience with a recent problem. What are you working on right now? What are you working through? What issues have you found? My attempt basically is to keep a balance between the applications I put out and the work I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to be just applying every day. I want to be working on something as well, so that I keep building the skills, because it could take a long time to get a job, and I don't want to have not coded the whole time I was looking for a job. So that's all I could say is I think it is beneficial to me, at least, to keep sharp, to keep curious while I look for these positions.
Okay, thank you so much.
My dream job? I love front-end development. That's what I did an internship in, and particularly I've only worked really in React on the front end, and this bit in Angular, the code was in Angular. So I would love to do front end development for a smaller company where I could have a hand in the back end as well. Because my training was full stack, and I really like being able to see the whole of the app. But I have my background in art and design and communication. I really have an interest in the aesthetics and the interaction of the person with the tech. So the UX, I guess, is how you say generally. So my dream job, to work as a software engineer.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure meeting you, talking with you. I hope you get your job in the US if that's what you want. Thank you for talking with me. I know it can be interesting to use two languages to communicate, but I appreciate you bearing with me and taking the time. No, it's great.